Everyone, and I just wanted to pop on really quick and just do a quick little have a quick little conversation around HIIT training. I talked about this in our group, our private Facebook group for Factor 3, but I thought it was a good enough conversation and important enough to share. We know in this day and age, of course, that HIIT training is of course very popularized. I really believe the whole concept around HIIT training really came out kind of in around or on the heels of the Tabata protocol. And the Tabata protocol was, of course, the whole idea generated around the rapid improvements we can possibly experience by doing, near maximal training loads, or kind of anaerobic threshold loads. And it's so well, here, let me back up a second. What they discovered with Tabata training, and of course Tabata is everywhere, and it's a highly bastardized idea. Okay, so you want to look at the original Tabata. Yeah, of course it was actually studied on with Japanese speed skaters, I believe. They're on bicycles. So on these stationary bikes, they had to do an all-out effort, right? So 30 seconds all-out effort, followed by a 10-second recovery, which is not no recovery at all, basically. And they repeated that 8 times. Now, I'm not sure how he came up with the idea of those particular time frames, but that was being measured. Now, the interesting thing about the Tabata protocol is what he discovered. Remember, these are highly trained individuals, right? So these are speed skaters. So we have to understand the context in which this is coming from. So highly trained, athletic level athletes doing this thing called the Tabata protocol. And what they noticed in these individuals was that, of course, there was a dramatic increase in their VO2 max. And VO2 max basically is the amount of oxygen I can extract from the air and pull into my lungs and utilize at a cellular level, right? That's my VO2 max. So the improvement, I believe, was like 24%, right? 24% improvement in VO2 max, or the volume of air I can take in and utilize at a cellular level. So I'm really, really efficient. I'm really good at using oxygen, which means I have a very highly tuned cardiorespiratory system. And the Tabata protocol, actually, you're only looking at a 10-minute time frame, of work. And when they measured that against, of course, people doing 45 minutes of steady state cardio, and the improvement in the Tabata protocol was much greater, right? So they had much greater improvement in overall cardiovascular fitness and VO2 max than the people doing 45 minutes. But here's the part that people always miss in these conversations, right? So we look at Tabata as a form of HIIT training, and HIIT training really just means high intensity interval training, of course, which is really subjective, because what's high intensity to me may not be, or maybe way too intense for you, right? So again, it's very subjective, and it's very individual, as we come to know, like everything else. The challenge with people adopting this protocol or protocols like this is that, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, one, why am I doing this? What is the result I'm looking for? If I'm looking for rapid fat loss, I want to make sure that I'm doing all the other right things in my life as well, right? So the whole idea of moving the needle forward on our health is that, first of all, we take into account all the things we need to be doing: like adequate levels of sleep, a diet that is sensible, not restricted, but a diet that's actually sensible, and a lifestyle that actually works. We look at our capacity to manage stress. Our life is not totally railing out of control. And of course, we look at the degree of injuries or postural instabilities or issues that we have within our physical being that could lend itself to some of the challenges we're seeking. And again, a fat loss and being leaner is the goal of the HIIT training. We have to really take into account all these other factors. Because one, you can't train at that level of intensity if you have a shitty diet and you're really poor on sleep and you're highly stressed in your day-to-day life anyhow. So if you don't manage stress well, you've got a lousy diet and your diet's inconsistent and your sleep patterns are kind of all over the map, then HIIT training will knock you out, right? In fact, it will take you out, right? So again, you got to remember that exercise is just a form of stress. And if you can't manage the current stress that you're living under physically and you're not recovering from what you're currently doing, then God help you putting HIIT training in as a possible addendum to your current strategy. Right? Does that make sense? You've got to take the whole thing into consideration. So the first challenge I have when we look at HIIT training is, one, it's not appropriate for most people. Because again, remember, when you look at the studies, athletes at a very high level who've had years and years and years of training. You probably have, have a physio on call, a chiropractor on call, massage therapist on call. Their bodies are probably just in remarkable shape, and this is what they're doing. So HIIT training on them, that's the result. HIIT training on you or me may not be the same thing, right? Right? Do you understand the difference? Giving $1 million to somebody, giving $1 million to somebody who's on welfare is not the same thing as giving $1 million to a Wall Street broker, right? Right? Their competencies are completely different, right? And it's not saying that the person on welfare couldn't do something with it, but the likelihood their money management skills is probably fairly limited. But the Wall Street broker probably has a pretty good idea how to turn that $1 million into something more. And so fitness is kind of the same way, right? It doesn't mean that you can't strive to go there, but you simply cannot start there. So here's the problem with HIIT training for the vast majority of people. One, orthopedic instability. And this simply refers to the fact that, do you have good core strength? Do you have good buttock or good glute tone? So do you have a strong set of hips? Do you have a strong core musculature? What is your posture overall? Do you have quite good posture? Your body sits nice and tall on your spine, and there's a fair amount of equal distribution of weight through your frame. So if you have a good muscle tone in your glutes, you have a strong core, your posture is pretty good for the most part, and your training is consistent. So you're in probably better than average physical health. You're probably better than average physical strength. You have better than average posture. You have better than average buttock tone and core strength. And again, I'm serious about this, better than average. Then the likelihood of HIIT training actually providing you with the benefit that you're looking for with minimal risk to you is actually pretty good. If you don't have those pre-existing criteria, then the chances are that it will take you out over time. And the challenge I have with people jumping into things like this is that if you come into fitness with a pre-existing less than great self-image, then doing something that is way out of your scope of ability currently, but not long term, but it's currently out of your scope of capacity, then you're just going to be beating yourself over the head saying, I knew it, I was a loser, I knew it, I'm too old, I had too many kids, I waited too long, right? I'm too fat, whatever, and you'll just pile on the negative projection inside your own head. So it's not a good thing. However, here's a way you can move yourself towards that goal of really doing HIIT training at the level that, of course, it was actually first studied and demonstrated to the world. One of the key things you want to look at is the ability, of course, to have some symmetry in how your body functions. So you want relative symmetry in your flexibility, meaning that you're looking for roughly, not perfectly, not totally symmetrical, but I want to make sure my left and right hamstrings are actually are fairly equal in their flexibility. So, so let's say I've got 90 degrees of flexibility in my right hamstring. I can't have 45 in my left and hope that my back, my spine in general is going to take the rigors of HIIT training. So I need some equality. So give or take 10 degrees wouldn't be the worst thing. So give or take 10 degrees in my hamstring flexibility, give or take 10 degrees of flexibility in my hip flexors, probably be an important thing. I want to have good posture so my body sits on my spine in a very neutral way, so that my head is not forward. I'm not doing my stuff this way where I'm this rounded posture. Again, it's just abysmal to see people hammer their spine that way over and over again with this really curved posture. Again, mechanically, it's just disastrous, especially with that degree of intensity and that degree of impact. If you look at sprinters, go on YouTube and look at sprinters run. They don't run bent over. They're tall. Their chest is out, like their pelvis is underneath them. Man, they're running tall. They're not running leaning forward, right? Power athletes do not do that, right? And HIIT training is a power-based endeavor, so we need to look at all the things that make power athletes very effective at what they do, which is beautiful mechanical congruency. So working on your buttock strength, making sure that you can actually flex your glutes and you actually have some muscle tone in there, right? So you want some muscle tone in the right, you want some muscle tone in the left, and the tendency you're going to be more dominant on one side. So you want to make sure that it's not so dramatic where you have 75% dominancy on your right hip and your left glute doesn't even fire at all. You do not want to be running on that kind of biomechanics. Right? But we don't think about these things until you go to physio saying, my left knee is just driving me crazy, and saying, well, the thing is you have no left glute tone, and so your knee is taking all the stress, and you're unable to transfer stress up to the left glute because you don't have one that's even functional at the level necessary to support you in your physical endeavors. right? This is stuff of what we just don't think about, and which is probably, I get the better part of 17 years of my career was all around this stuff, right? But people are relatively impatient, right? We want to get to the good stuff, and we don't want to follow the law of the farm, which means we got to do the groundwork before we can actually come up here. So developing good glute strength, right? So if, let's say we're going to prepare. Let's say you hang out with me in Factor 3 in a program. We're going to spend the next 90 days getting you ready to do some really great HIIT work, right? So part of it would look at developing some buttock strength. So we want to work on developing bridging work. So there's a spinal stability scale. So here's something you can test at home. Put yourself into a bridge position, lying on your back, heels below your knees, lift your bum up off the floor, and then have a timer next to you and hit that timer. See how long you can hold that position before your hamstrings or lower back engage, right? See how long you can stay elevated before your lower back and hamstrings engage, right? So you want to, and that of course that means that how long can you keep your glutes actively contracted in the bridge position in a static position? How long can you hold that before the stress starts to move out into your lower back and move out into your hamstrings or other parts of your body? Some people feel it in the knees, some people will feel it at the top of their hips. So on average, I find most people can't hold more than 30 seconds, 45 seconds without them feeling a lot of stress elsewhere, right? Which means there's a lot of inequality inside your pelvis. So if you can't hold that for 30 seconds, just statically, what makes you think you can do 30 minutes of HIIT, right? And again, we don't think about this stuff, but this is the reality, so why people get beat up. So part of your job is, of course, to start doing some glute work, and again, you're looking at doing some bridging work, and of course, you're doing reps and sets, and looking at even like twice a day. And in fact, if you remind me, right, you can actually private message me, and I'll send you a video that I have it on YouTube, which is on some basic core training activities about turning your core on. But you want to be able to do on a daily basis at least 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions for hip bridging. Right, so just getting your glutes active. So again, shoulders back on the ground, heels below knees, tighten the pelvic floor, squeeze your glutes up. Make sure you have a glute contraction. Doing 3 sets of 10 to 12. Bridging with your glutes not being active kind of defeats the purpose. So pay attention to what your body's doing, and it'll let you know. So again, 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. Do that on a daily basis, every single day for the minimum of 2 weeks, and what you'll start finding is, of course, the muscles will start waking up. On top of that, of course, when you do your cardiovascular training, don't look at doing running. So let's look at resistance, which means that we can look at doing hills. If you're on a treadmill and you enjoy treadmill training, then of course I would do 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions for my glute work, get my glutes turned on, do my bridges, then get on the treadmill, walk for 5 minutes on a 0 incline, just a brisk pace walk. And then again, make sure you're standing tall, you got good posture. You're not talking to the person to the right, you're not talking to the person on the left. You're inside your body, paying attention to what you feel. You're not hunched over trying to read a book or trying to send a text for whatever reason. So, right, so you're completely in your body, standing tall, great posture, your hips are underneath you, and you feel your glutes as, of course, each leg extends. So after a 5-minute warm-up, and of course you got a really good sense of what your body's doing, then bring up the incline of the machine, let's say to 3 to 5%. And 3 to 5%, what you don't want to do, of course, is start leaning forward. So as soon as you start leaning forward, you load your quadriceps, you end up loading your thighs, the front of your thighs with all the stress. Try to stand up and drop into your hips, and you know when you do, because it feels like you're leaning backwards, but really you're just standing straight up and down. Most of us are tilted so far forward all the time that standing up like this feels like you're doing this. Of course, which it is not. So stand up nice and tall, get your glutes underneath you, keep your core muscles active, which means gently tightening your pelvic floor, your bladder and rectal muscles, and then walk uphill for 30 seconds, really focusing on extending your hips and getting your glutes involved to push up that hill without you leaning into the hill. Stand the hell up, right? Sit back into your hips, stand up, do that for 30 seconds, take it back down to 0, walk out for 30 seconds, and then move it back up for 30 seconds to 3 to 5% incline. And keep doing that for about 15 minutes or until you find yourself losing control and your lower back or your quads, you feel the stress dispersing, and your ability to pay attention and to keep those muscles active starts to wane, then you are done. Right? There's no point putting more time in if your glutes are saying, okay, I'm tapping out, I can't do this anymore. Right? We want to stay within an area that we actually have control. When we no longer have control, the game is over. So you might want to take example, or to an upright bike, preferably, right? So if you had a choice between a bike where you're sitting down pushing forward, or you're sitting on a bike pushing down, I would, preferentially for your hips, I would focus on the bike that you're actually pushing straight down. So get on an upright bike, again, same idea. Of course, takes a little stress off because you're not having to bear all your weight. And lift the seat up high enough so that when you extend through, of course, you will find that you go to, 85% extension, so your knees are locked all the way up. And same idea, focus sitting up nice and tall, and then drive down through your heel to midfoot. But focus on pushing through the hip so that as you extend your right leg, your right glute is active. Yes, the rest of your leg is involved, but we don't care that that's going to be kind of incidental. Get your glutes intact. Pay attention to the left leg. And what you might even have to do, of course, from time to time, is focus on sitting up nice and tall on the bike, of course, the upright bike, not leaning forward, keeping your core muscles gently active, bladder rectum muscles engaged, push down to the left foot for 1 minute. Focus on bringing that left foot, and what you'll find is it'll be in the knee and the quad, it'll be all over the mat. Your job is, how do you get your ass in gear? How do you get that glute to fire? Pay attention. Tell the body what you want by thinking about it inside your head. Pay attention to the feedback on how that left leg is functioning. Then go to the right. Do the right for a minute if you can tolerate it, 30 seconds if you can, right? Whatever the time frame is that allow you to, think, okay, I've got the hip, okay, that feels good. Oh yeah, the glutes are active, that feels the blood flowing there, perfect. And again, 30 seconds probably is good enough. So 30 seconds to a minute, whatever the tolerance is for you, and go back and forth. And go back and forth. And again, do that for 10 to 15 minutes. Again, you got to be present. You got to be thinking about this, not talking to the person on your left, not talking to the person on your right. Shut up and train. Focus on what you're doing so you can build the body you want, right? People that have really great physiques, they're not talking to anyone. They're focused, right? Why? Because the body's all over the map. The body's trying to find the easiest way out of this thing. Body doesn't care that you want great shoulders and a nice bum and a flat belly. Body does not care. In fact, it would rather you do something else because it's trying to be very economical with the energy that it has. And for you to try to think about bringing a weak muscle into play is very expensive and very counterintuitive to what the body is designed to do. Again, the body doesn't care. Yes, having great glutes would be ideal. The body can use something else. Right? So if you're not paying attention and not being focused and intentional with what you're doing, the body's going to take what's pre-existingly tight and dominant in you, right? And it's going to use that to get all the exercises done. And what is weak and inhibited will generally remain weak and inhibited regardless of what the exercise is supposed to be for. Right? Don't look at the machine or do an exercise saying, hey, this exercise is really great for the lower abs and my obliques. Where do you feel it? Well, I can feel it in my face. Well, then how the hell is that for your lower abs and your obliques if you feel the stress in your neck and you feel it only in your upper abs? So what the exercise is for is completely irrelevant. It's only the possibility. The possibility needs to be taken in by us who are intelligent enough to think about what we're doing, pay attention to how the body's responding. And if what I feel kinesthetically is not in alignment with what the exercise is supposed to be for, then there's a problem. And I only know that if I'm paying attention. Most people don't. Hopefully you do. All right, so those are your marching orders. I know not to be intense or to be disrespectful, but I'm kind of more to the point where I'm just really frustrated. I go into a gym, a gym I joined here in town because it's close, not my favorite environment, but I go in there and they had this thing on the wall. It's called the lunk alarm. Right, aimed at people like me, right? So supposedly, bodybuilders wearing tank tops, thin tank tops, with a giant thing of water, walk around judging everyone. Well, that's just bullshit because we all judge. Everyone judges everyone else. That's just an unfortunate part of the human condition. But what's most frustrating with this whole thing is that when I trained when I trained in the old facilities with these monsters roaming the earth, these big giant guys that are running around that made me look tiny. These guys, they understood training, and yes, a lot of these guys were drug induced. Didn't make them stupid. It just made there was a question about their motive, why they would bother using drugs. But these guys knew how to train, right? A lot of these guys were very intelligent and powerful and knew how to train. And yes, I didn't follow their path with the drug part, but I did look at. They knew how to squat. They knew how to deadlift. They knew how to do the flat bench, right? They knew how to target the muscle. They knew how to focus and think. So now we're in an environment where, of course, we're going to say the people that are really successful physically, we want to actually cast them aside because they make us look bad. And we're going to have staff that are unhealthy and out of shape. We're not going to provide any guidance. We're going to give you a really great deal of a membership. And you're going to walk around aimlessly like everyone else in there. It's like the land of the living dead. People have no idea what they're doing. And will that enhance or will it enhance their self-image, or will it destroy it? Well, if you get a membership for $10 a month, and you wander in there and you're none the wiser for what you're doing, and nobody's talked to you about posture, nobody's given you a gradient on how you should actually get your body to a place where you actually train really hard. Nobody suggested that. Nobody told you to pay attention to what your body was doing, and nobody ever corrected you on your posture. What good is $10 a month for you? Right? What good is that $10 a month membership? It's actually worthless. Right? And that's the challenge, right? We've gone so economical with these facilities that people are not getting any guidance. And we have a lot of seniors in there that really could benefit greatly. Seniors could really benefit greatly from being active, but being active properly, not just wandering around and not having a trainer that took their education through an internet course that has no practical real world experience, and there's nobody actually looking over them to make sure that they're doing a good job. Right, huge frustration on my point. Again, I've been in the industry for 25 years. And I came into it as an athlete. I came into it with a physical base. Right, by getting more into the orthopedic rehab part of it really enlightened me, and I thought I really knew what I was doing prior. When I got into the orthopedic rehab, I realized how much of an idiot I was. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand posture. I didn't understand, what a upper and lower cross syndrome looked like. I didn't understand the inequalities of our biomechanics. I didn't understand the body's natural tendency to want to be very economical with its energy, so the body finds the easiest way to get the job done, but not the way that you want it, the way it's decreed. If we weren't paying attention, we'd never know, which is why we ultimately always get injured over time through this high repetition of bad activities over time. Anyhow, I said that with all one breath. But it just, again, the process, if you really want to be intelligent with the process, our program is ongoing. We converted to a monthly membership. It's, of course, it's www.factor3fitness.com. And the whole idea, it's about education. You can get an exercise program anywhere. There's a billion out there, and there's lots of great ones. It's my main concern is that you become smarter, you become wiser, you become more intuitive about how your body's functioning and how this stuff freaking works truly at orthopedic level, not at a this is a really fun program level. Yeah, it can be fun, but I don't look at my training as fun. I rarely see training as fun, right? I have fun hanging out with my friends. I have fun boogie boarding. But weight training to me is a beautiful place that I love sitting into because, again, I get to be focused. I get to design and shape my health and my body the way I want to the best of my ability, so I can have a life that's actually beyond measure. So at 54, I can be in better shape. Certainly the most 54-year-olds my age, but people half my age or even people in their 20s, right? So we live in a very bizarre world that doesn't support us very well physically. It doesn't support us nutritionally. It doesn't even support us actually cognitively anymore. The world is made as lazy and weak, and we need to really start stepping up and thinking more, that realizing the world is not going to give us anything. It's not designed that way anymore. It's designed to make us apathetic, weak, and actually suffer for a long period of time. Unfortunately, that's just really the reality. And if you look around, that's true. So we need to be a little more conscientious of the process. We need to start thinking about our lifestyle strategies and how we build a diet to support us, and look at the evidence. Is it working or is it not working? Do we need to make some small tweaks in it? Physically, if you don't have the results you want for the effort you're putting in, and it's been some time, then the likelihood is that you're using all the right you might have all the right tools, but you don't know how to use them, and that's quite often the case. Anyhow, my rambling is done. Have an amazing Sunday. We have a beautiful snow day out here. I'm loving the snow. Not everybody's a big fan, but I'm a huge fan of the snow. And it's, just some things to think about. Always welcome your comments. By no means am I the only authority on anything related to health and fitness. I obviously have an opinion, which I'm entitled to, as you are your own. But again, I really do care about people's time and energy spent and looking after this thing, because it's the only thing you got. It's the only body you got. And when this thing doesn't work, what are you going to live in? All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great end of the weekend, and for your Aussies, have a beautiful beginning to the week. Bye.